From South Carolina Public Radio, this is Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. This week, we're looking back on the founding of our country with games all about the American Revolutionary War.
That's right, Brand. Coming up later this hour, we're going to sing some pop songs rewritten to be about the American Revolution.
La la la.
And hear 3 stories from history that are almost too good to believe. That's because only 2 of them are real. Can you guess our lie?
And if you'd like to join us for these games, you just got to call or text us. It's that simple. 803-470-6347. That's 803-470-6347. Or if you'd rather, you could send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
Brand, you ready to talk about American Revolution?
I mean, you do see what I'm wearing today, right?
I almost didn't ask because you've made a choice.
Yes, I have.
You've got the tri-corner hat, but
Yes.
even more intense, you've got what appears to be an authentic powdered wig.
Well, that is correct, sir.
Oh, boy. That's probably going to be itchy, maybe a little hot.
It is, very much so. I just wanted to prepare myself for the episode. Am I regretting it? I don't know, but I'm prepared now.
I think you're going to regret it in about a half hour regardless.
Okay.
But this is a big topic today, Brand.
Yes, the American War of Independence.
You said it. And we should say this. We're going to be covering not only the war proper, 1775 to 1783, but also the years before the Revolutionary War, all the way back to 1765, because that's when things really start to gear up.
Dan, you know me. I know
of course.
basically everything there is to know about the American Revolutionary War. But maybe you could just remind the people what led to the American Revolution, what led to the war.
So, Brand, before the mid-1700s, the colonists of England were pretty much left to their own devices. They operated under something called salutary neglect, which meant even though they were British citizens, they really got to do their own thing, pave their own way, forage, explore the frontier, all of that great stuff. Well, the French and Indian War happens. There's an argument over territory, and England wants the colonists to fight like they care as much as England cares. This leads King George III to realize these colonists really aren't as British as I want them to be. And so he begins to implement some things that make the colonists really upset. Quartering troops, taxes on things like tea and stamps and all kinds of other things. This makes the colonists very angry. Not because they want representation in the British Parliament, but because they want representation from their local governments. They want their taxes to come from the people that live in the colonies, not in England.
And that's where you get the famous line, no taxation without representation.
See, you knew it all along.
I knew it.
And from there, Brand, tensions continue to escalate, leading to events such as British soldiers shooting several colonists in what became known as the Boston Massacre, and the British Parliament trying to disarm the colonists to prevent any fights, which leads directly to the start of the Revolutionary War.
Thank you for another brief history lesson, Professor Dan.
I'm doing the best I can. How's that wig feeling?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, well,
Please don't bring it up.
I'm still excited to be here to cover even more Revolutionary War.
And you know who else is excited, Dan?
Who?
Our contestants.
We've got 2 on the line right now. Caller number 1, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, my name's Kristen, and I'm from Charleston.
Charleston, South Carolina. So you
Wonderful.
should know a lot about the Revolutionary War. It's everywhere around there, right?
I mean, it wasn't there when I started living there.
You know what, Kristen? That's a great point.
It's a great point.
That's a really good point.
It's a great point. How are you feeling about Revolutionary War as a category?
Overall, I feel good. It feels appropriate.
Feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, let's meet caller number 2. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, this is Sarah. I'm from Columbia.
Sarah from Columbia, South Carolina. Right here where we're recording this.
That's
Sarah,
right.
how'd you feel about the Revolutionary War as a category?
As long as all the questions can be from Hamilton, I think I'll be all right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to have to say no promises there, but Hamilton's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, you could maybe deduce some stuff.
That's right.
From it?
Yeah, for sure. And where do you stand on a powdered wig? Would you wear one?
Sure. Maybe one of those barrister wigs.
Such a weird way to start an episode.
We're having fun, aren't we?
All right, let's get to our first game here. A little game called Liberty or Fibberty.
That's funny.
It's a little funny. And this game has to do with stories we hear from the Revolutionary War or about the people who participated in it. Some of these stories are factual, but there are also a lot that are tall tales and myths.
Kristen and Sarah, here's how the game will work. We've got stories from the American Revolution and its key players. For each one, you'll have to tell us if it's fact, aka liberty, or if it's fiction, you guessed it, fibberty.
So simple. After each answer, I'm going to give you the history behind it. Regardless if the story is real or not, you can't get out of that.
I love it.
Kristen, are you ready to play Liberty or Fibberty?
So ready.
Here we go. Just before midnight on April 18th, 1775, Paul Revere rode from Charlestown in Boston to Lexington, Massachusetts, to let the Sons of Liberty know that the regulars are coming out, or that he had information saying the British were going to attack and attempt to arrest John Hancock and Samuel Adams, the leaders of the Sons of Liberty. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
So I know Paul Revere did ride, and that was a thing. My memory of it was more about the Battle of Concord than arresting people or like getting the Sons of Liberty. But I mean, it makes sense to me that the results of that battle would have an impact on the leaders of the revolution and the ability of the British to get to them. So I'm going to go with Liberty.
She talked it through. She's super insightful, maybe should be hosting. And she is correct. It is Liberty.
Wow.
Now, Brand, the thing that we usually think about with Paul Revere is his midnight ride.
Yep.
Where he said the British are coming.
The British are coming.
That is almost certainly Fibberty.
Okay.
That is not true. What Kristen said is accurate, but the Battle of Concord is actually the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And the reason it happened is because the Sons of Liberty, or the Continentals, found out that the British were going to try and arrest John Hancock and Samuel Adams for all the stuff they were doing as the leaders of the Sons of Liberty. So Paul Revere almost certainly never said the British are coming, and he also wasn't the only rider. Paul Revere's midnight ride is very much a tall tale, but what he did do is ride on a horse to let him know that the regulars are coming out, which was the key word to let them know the Sons of Liberty needed to hide.
Okay.
Kristen figured it out. She's on the board. Excellent job, Kristen. Sarah, it's your turn. Are you ready to play Liberty or Fibberty?
Sure, let's go.
Upon a public reading of the newly written Declaration of Independence in the public square in Philadelphia, the town's bell, used for communication, cracked while ringing after the reading. Because of the significance of the event, the bell was never repaired, and the crack is still there today. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
Well, I recall that the Liberty Bell was rung at a significant event and that it cracked the very first time they used it. So I'm not sure if it was that or the reading aloud of something else, but I'm going to go with Liberty.
She's going to go with Liberty, and unfortunately it is Fibberty. Man. It is Fibberty.
This is a tough game.
It's a tough game.
Because we all know about the crack and the Liberty Bell.
If you go to Philadelphia and take tours, there are some people wrong on the tours who will tell you that the Liberty Bell cracked during the reading of the Declaration of Independence. Did the reading of the Declaration of Independence happen in Town Square? Yes. Did they sound the Liberty Bell? Yes. Did it crack? No. The bell is believed to have first cracked not until the 1840s.
Oh, wow.
After over 90 years of using the bell for communication in Philadelphia. When it cracked a second time in 1846, because the location was near the reading of the Declaration of Independence, it was retired from use, but remains a historical artifact of colonial and continental times.
So it's time to hang it up. And by hang it up, I mean take it down.
Ring no more.
Ring no more.
It rung its last rung in 1846, but it is still up today. That was a toughie, Sarah. I love the way you talked it through, but incorrect. Yeah. Kristen has an early lead.
I went and I saw that bell once, and I was like, well, look at that.
It's pretty cool. The crack is legit.
Yeah, it's a good crack. It's a good crack.
Legit. Kristen, back to you. You ready to play Liberty or Fibberty?
Ready.
When General George Washington was a child, he chopped down his father's cherry tree. Upon being confronted with the information, he immediately admitted what he'd done. This story began and cemented the legacy of George Washington as the bastion of morality in our country that represented our new burgeoning nation. Liberty or Fibberty?
I've heard that story, and for some reason in my mind, I'm thinking of that's Abraham Lincoln, not of George Washington, of Honest Abe, I cannot tell a lie, that whole thing. That also just sounds kind of made up regardless of who we're talking about. So I'm going to go with Fibberty.
Fibberty is correct. This is a story that was told in our nation's history books.
Wow.
History books for children for decades after the Revolutionary War. History books for children after the Revolutionary War routinely painted George Washington out to be larger than life, standing 7 feet tall and being the best of us. He was this legendary figure that we all looked up to as somewhere in between
He
man and
invented
God.
basketball.
He invented, that's James Naismith.
Okay.
Little bit different.
Different
But
history, but
the idea of training kids in how to be an American, part of that was republicanism, which was learning about our founding fathers and how amazing they were and exaggerating the greatness of folks like George Washington. So while this was printed in history books, it is 100% made up. Kristen now has an early lead in Liberty or Fibberty.
can I ask a quick question,
I would
Dan?
love that.
Because I do feel like there's a lot of these tall tales from this time in history, which is why we're playing this game. How much of that is because of the fact that it happened quite a while ago versus how much of it is the people at the time pushing these stories that were just downright not true?
So public education doesn't become required in our country for years and years later. Horace Mann, father of education in Massachusetts, in the North it happens earlier than in the South, but in the decades following the Revolutionary War, everyone wasn't going to school. The people that were going to school were typically pretty wealthy or typically men or boys. And so what happened is a guy named Mason Locke Weems, who is a biographer, wrote a biography of George Washington and included this story. And so what happened is history books were not uniform and not checked because education was not uniform or checked. And so it was pretty easy to find its way into schoolhouses.
Okay.
Yeah, great question, Brian. It's a great story.
Great story.
You print the legend clearly in this case. All right, Sarah, it's time to get on the board. You ready to play Liberty or Fibberty?
Yep. Don't call it a comeback. We're ready.
At 43 years old, George Washington was appointed general of the Continental Army and remained the only head general of that army throughout the Revolutionary War. It was, coincidentally, his first time ever leading a large army in the field.
Wow.
First time ever being in charge of an entire army in the field. Liberty or Fibberty, Sarah?
That's a pretty big gig for your first time out. But I know that in his early life he worked as a surveyor. But how did he become the leader if he didn't have experience? Oof. I'm still going to go and say Liberty.
She's going to say Liberty, and she's on the board.
Very well done.
Nicely done. Way to think it out.
I know
It
that
is
guy
Liberty.
from Hamilton.
Yeah, she knows that guy from Hamilton. Now,
Exactly.
George Washington served in the French and Indian War.
Yes.
He also had a battalion of men, a small group of men that he commanded. And in the song, History Has Its Eyes on You, in Hamilton, he even says, I led my men straight into a massacre, witnessed their death firsthand. But he was never in charge of more than a battalion until the Revolutionary War. And clearly it worked out for him. Sarah is correct. And she's on the board, and we have a 1-point game. Kristen, your next question here on Liberty or Fibberty. The term the spirit of 76 refers to the patriotic fervor and zeal that represented the country during its tumultuous split with Great Britain. Able-bodied male colonists from every area of the country wanted to pitch in, serve, and suffer for freedom and independence. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
So in the early colonies, they were all separatists. They were all going to the United States for various reasons. And some of them were for religious reasons. And if I remember right, there were some rather peace-minded groups. I don't think they would have been super jazzed about getting into war. So I think I'm going to go Fibberty.
She's going to go Fibberty, and once again has articulated herself incredibly well. If she was wrong, it'd be a real downer. She's right. She's right. It is Fibberty.
Wow.
The spirit of 76 does refer to the spirit of patriotic intensity and fandom during the Revolutionary War, but it did not represent the majority of the country. This is something most people don't know. Roughly half the country, probably less, felt strongly about declaring independence from Great Britain. Really, there were a lot of people in bigger cities, wealthy individuals that were affected by King George's dictatorial taxation policies. Those folks really wanted independence. But many loyalists, especially south of Virginia, who were just on their farm, they really didn't care. And to Kristen's point, people like Quakers who were anti-war certainly didn't care. Really, you could split it up as a third were loyal, a third wanted to declare independence, and a third didn't really care or didn't want war at all. It was not the overwhelming, unanimous support for war that a lot of people think it is when they celebrate July 4th.
Fascinating.
Right, Brain? You learning stuff today?
I'm learning all sorts of
Look at
stuff.
that. All right. Kristen's 3 for 3. Sarah, a chance to pull within 1. Here's your next question on Liberty or Fibberty. At the beginning of the Revolutionary War, most Patriot soldiers wore their own hunting shirts to fight in, as the Continental Army had little in the way of funds to supply uniforms. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
I think that seems possible because, they're fighting against Great Britain, which was big and well-funded. And you think about sort of Francis Marion and, the hiding in the woods and maybe not having the resources to have a unified army and look good. So I'm going to say Liberty.
Another great job of articulation, and she's correct. These two guests really should probably take our jobs.
Yeah, yes. We
think
got
you
a couple
should.
of smarties, but
Here.
I look great.
You look great.
And I think that's the key
That's
to this show, this
That's
radio
right.
program.
Clearly, we don't have
is
any
that I
cameras
look
in here,
great.
but
No.
you look great.
No.
You look great. Sarah's 100% right. It wasn't until French involvement in 1778 that the Continental Army really adopts the traditional blue uniform to fight the Redcoats. In the early years of the war, most of our fighters were state militias who did their own thing, or the Continental Army by George Washington was just a ragtag group of people wearing whatever they would hunt in to blend in, to use their guerrilla-style tactics to try to match or go against the organization of the Redcoats.
Best you can. As best you can, rocking your street clothes. You know what I
Rocking
mean?
your street clothes. I mean, the British would literally wear bright colors, stand in lines, and tell you when they were going to shoot at you.
Yeah.
So
Everybody good?
we good? On the count of 3, we're going to shoot some guns at you. All right. It's a close one. It's a 1-point game. Kristen, your last question in the category starts right now. In the winter of 1777 and 1778, George Washington demanded that all of his soldiers be inoculated for smallpox, which meant they were all incapacitated for a period of time and not able to fight. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
Ooh, trying to think of timeline of vaccines and obviously it's not a vaccine, it's inoculation, which is a different thing. But trying to think of the timeline of infectious disease knowledge. I think that Washington had smallpox at one point. The science teacher in me wants this to be true, so I'm going to go Liberty.
I thought she was going to go Fibberty for sure on that one. She was giving Fibberty vibes. She went Liberty, and she's correct.
How about that?
This is one of the wilder stories no one talks about. George Washington gets smallpox before the Revolutionary War and has a absolute hell of a time with it. And then what happens is he realizes that smallpox is going to play a huge part in the Revolutionary War. And he's not wrong. At one point, there were more deaths early in the Revolutionary War from smallpox than from the war itself. So when they camp at Valley Forge, he makes every soldier purposefully expose themselves to smallpox. And then they lay down in a bed for 2 months. And they don't fight at all during the Valley Forge campaign for the first 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
And then what happens is, after he inoculates his entire army, they cannot catch smallpox. They're super soldiers. The best possible stats we have for this is, before the inoculation, 17% of all Continental Army deaths were smallpox related before 1778. After 1778, the number of smallpox-related deaths for the Continental Army was roughly 1%.
Wow.
George Washington absolutely gained a comparative advantage by inoculating his soldiers in the 1700s.
That's wild.
One of the craziest stories ever. Also, a perfect round for Kristen in a very tough game. Excellent job. Sarah, you got a chance to bring yourself within 1 point of Kristen with your
not
last
too
question.
shabby, all
Not
things
too
considered.
shabby.
This has been a tough round.
That's right. And the next round's going to be a lot sillier than this one. Sarah,
is it who, what, when?
It's who, what, when? I can't believe we're so serious out of the gate. Sarah, your last question here on Liberty or Fibberty. When her husband fell wounded while operating a cannon, Mary Hayes took his post, operated his cannon, and helped the colonists throughout the Battle of Monmouth. And this garnered her the name Molly Pitcher because she had previously been bringing water where it was needed. Is that Liberty or Fibberty?
Molly Pitcher. There's one of those names that you've heard, but you're not quite sure where if you've got it from. I'm going to say that I recall her being on the battlefield, and I'm going to say Liberty.
She's going to say Liberty. Unfortunately, it is Fibberty.
Oh.
So many people have heard this story.
Yeah.
Mary Hayes was a real person. The story of Molly Pitcher is unfortunately and most likely a representation of a conglomeration of a lot of women and their heroism during the war. It was very common for history books to write glowingly of men in the 1700s and 1800s. It was not common to write glowingly about women because of the patriarchal structure of our nation's founding. What was common was soldiers' wives accompanied them to battle. They would be spies. They would bring water. They would man posts as needed. Because of our history of the time period doesn't feature women the way it should, we're left with this tall tale of Molly that combines the heroic effort of probably hundreds of women.
Wow.
To exaggerate one regular occurrence during war. And while it's unfortunate, it does hopefully lead you to the history books to learn as much as we know and can document about how women were a huge part of the Revolutionary War and their success. Kind of the Rosie the Riveter of the Revolutionary War. That's exactly right. That's from my producer. Brand, do you know that?
I did not know that. I had heard the name, and now I know the backstory. Very fascinating. This is Who, What, When. I'm Brandon Gray here with my buddy Daniel Thompson, and today we are looking back at the founding of America with games all about the Revolutionary War.
Our contestants, Kristen and Sarah from South Carolina, are off to a great start. Coming up after the break, we'll continue quizzing them, this time through song.
That's next, here on Who, What, When.
Welcome back to Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia from South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Daniel Thompson, here with my good buddy Brandon Gray. This week, we're devoting the hour to games all about the American Revolutionary War.
Yes, and before we get back to our games, I know you're having fun listening and you're thinking to yourself, I would love to join. Well, you can. We would love for you to join us in a future episode of Who, What, When. All you got to do is call or text us, 803-470-6347, or you can just send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
Our contestants this week, Sarah and Kristen from South Carolina, are still on the line from our first round. They're competing for the title of Who, What, When Champion of the Week, but more importantly, for our special prize, that sweet Who, What, When fanny pack.
And whoever comes out on top in this second round will move on for a chance to win that fanny pack. But first, they're going to have to get through this next game, one that we're calling Revolutionary Warioke.
Revolutionary Warioke, like Wario from the Mario universe?
No, like karaoke.
Like karaoke,
Yes,
that
yes.
makes more sense. I love it. Kristen and Sarah, here's how this game's going to work. Brand's going to sing part of a pop song rewritten to be about the Revolutionary War, the people in it, and events that led up to it. I'll tell you the actual titles of the songs we're using and the original artists, along with 3 possible answers for who or what we've rewritten these songs to be about.
That's Revolutionary Warioke.
You said it, Brand. Kristen, the first question is yours. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, this is sung to Break Away by Kelly Clarkson.
We are the sons and we seek liberty. We'll do what it takes to make King George see. Even dress on up, board a boat, dump some brew, and sneak away.
Man, you crushed it, Brand.
Thank you.
Is Brand singing about A, the Boston Massacre, B, the shot heard round the world, or C, the Boston Tea Party?
Well, first of all, Kelly Clarkson really made an error in not writing those lyrics to start with.
Yes.
You're right, Kristen.
Yes.
But I'm going to go with C, Boston Tea Party.
Thank you, Kristen. You're right, and that was very kind of you. So you're double right.
Kelly,
Great job.
call us.
Call us, Kelly. Call us,
Yeah.
Kel. That's exactly right. All right, Sarah, your first question here on Revolutionary War. Warioke, Revolutionary Warioke, caught me off guard. This is sung to Holla Back Girl by Gwen Stefani. Brand, take it away.
Few times he wrote an almanac. Lightning, he might have a key for that, but he ain't no poor Richard. He ain't no poor Richard.
I don't feel quite as good about that one as
I feel
Breakaway.
great about it.
but it was pretty good. Sarah, is that James Monroe, Ben Franklin, or Thomas Jefferson?
Oh, it's that great inventor and statesman, Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin is correct. We're Revolutionary Warioke. That's what we're doing. You know what I mean? We're bringing people together.
A lot of people might think that this is all songs by Wario, but it's not.
It's not. Warioke.
Different. It's a different thing
Can
altogether.
you imagine, though?
That's next week's episode. Come
Next
back
week
for
we'll
that.
do a full track list.
Yeah, it's going to be really
He
good.
sings a lot of ballads.
Yeah.
I know it's going to come as a surprise.
What a voice. Silk.
All right. It's going to get weirder before it gets more normal. Kristen, your next song here on Revolutionary Warioke is sung to the tune of Summer Girls by LFO.
I founded the Sons of Liberty. They named a beer after me. An ale you can drink in the summer. In the summer.
Is that John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, or Samuel Adams?
I'm going to be honest, I'm more familiar with his role in the brewery world than his revolutionary world. That would be Sam Adams.
Sam Adams, who founded the Sons of Liberty, and they also still have a beer company named after him. Kristen is working on a perfect game, Bran. A perfect game right now.
I'm really excited for her.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
And
Like,
Sarah
this is-
missed the first one, and it's like she's been doing great ever since.
I know.
It's unbelievable. Sarah, your next question here on Revolutionary Warioke is sung to another classic. You know it, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X as George Washington. So this is Lil Nas X, Old Town Road, but George Washington is singing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to cross this place to surprise red coats. Cold and ice on Christmas night. So I'll cross the place to surprise red coats. Then I'll slide right back home.
Maybe my favorite moment in the show's history. Sarah, is that Trenton Bridge, the Delaware River, or Yorktown?
That is, I did this myself not too long ago, driving from New Jersey into Philadelphia, and that's crossing the Delaware River.
Crossing the Delaware River is correct.
And Sarah sang that song, which
She
was
did.
crazy.
She did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cross this place to surprise red coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This place as George Washington. You
Across
get it.
this place.
You get it. This almost made Liberty or Fibberty because people exaggerate the crossing the Delaware River
Sure.
quite a bit. But he actually did do it.
He did it.
It was the Hessians, and I do want to make that clear. The Redcoats, it was actually the Hessians. I've got a couple of these, but Redcoats just worked for the song. You get it. It's for the bit. You get it. All right, Kristen, the board's back to you here on Revolutionary Warioke. This is sung to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana.
Well, I wrote the Declaration, but then skipped town. Went to Europe. We should help France. Revolution, 'cause I wrote the Declaration. Yeah!
Okay, that is that Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, or George Washington?
It's really, it's hard to focus on the words when there's such musical stylings going on.
I understand. I get that a lot.
Such musical stylings he's going to take as a compliment.
Yeah.
That would be Thomas Jefferson.
It would be Thomas Jefferson. The perfect game continues.
Woo!
Nicely done. Man. All right, Sarah, you're going to have to get your next two right to have a shot here. Here it is, sung to 22 by Taylor Swift.
I don't know about you, but I'm almost 22. I'll be George Washington scribe and fight for freedom too. You don't know about me, but I'm making history. And now you can't get away from me on Broadway.
Man, you crushed it.
Thank you.
Sarah, is that Aaron Burr, John Lawrence, or Alexander Hamilton?
Oh, as a parent of a recovering theater kid, I know that has got to be Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, it is. That is correct. And before I get the emails, we don't know Alexander Hamilton's exact birthday. Could have been one of 3 years, but most people believe he was around 22 when we wrote the Declaration of Independence.
For the say, we're taking artistic liberty, okay?
Yes. Liberty or
Fibberty.
Fibberty. That's right. Exactly right. All right. So you're still alive, Sarah. Kristen, your next question here on Revolutionary Warioke. sung to Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond.
Dan, I'm going to need your help on this.
I got
one,
you,
okay?
no
All
problem.
right. Snowballs and rocks. Ba, ba, ba. These red coats are getting mad. So mad, so mad, so mad. Snowballs and rocks. Ba, ba, ba. They've got guns now. This looks bad. So bad. 5 dead. So bad.
Is that the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, or the Intolerable Act?
That was the Boston Massacre.
It was, Kristen. It was, and the perfect game continues. The Boston Massacre. 5 dead, Brand. If you can
5
believe it.
dead.
5 dead. So bad. So bad.
So bad.
So bad. Sarah,
bad.
your next question on Revolutionary Warioki, sung to Jumper by Third Eye Blind.
Sure.
Brand, take it away.
I wish you would just hand me a giant pen. Gonna sign my name just as big as I can. And if you know nothing else about me, I would understand.
Wow, man, you cry. I can retire. It just was so perfect. Sarah, is that James Monroe, John Hancock, or Nathaniel Greene?
I think you're right in that we don't know a lot of us don't know that much about this person, except that he had a big ostentatious signature. So I'm going to say John Hancock.
John Hancock is correct. We wariokied.
Yes.
Bran sang some bangers. And
Thank
at the
you.
end of the day, as the dust is settled, Sarah from Columbia, it was a valiant effort.
A great effort.
Unbelievable. You knew so much. But Kristen from Charleston, South Carolina, with her perfect game, is our Who What When Champion of the Week and is moving on to play for a sweet, sweet fanny pack.
That's right.
Kristen, congratulations. Sarah, an excellent contestant. Thanks for joining us on Who What When. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This is Who What When. I'm Brandon Gray here with my co-host Daniel Thompson, and we're traveling back to the 1700s today with questions all about the Revolutionary War.
That's right, Brian. Our contestant, Kristen, has just become the Who What When Champion of the Week. She'll now move on to our final game to see if she can take home our weekly prize, the illustrious Who What When Fanny Pack.
That's coming up right after this break here on Who What When.
Welcome back to Who What When, an hour of history, games, and trivia from South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my buddy Brandon Gray. Today we're playing games all about the American Revolutionary War.
And before we get to our final round, we have a gentle reminder that you can take part in a future episode of this show and play some games with us. All you got to do is call or text us, 803-470-6347, or you can email us whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
It's guaranteed fun, Brian.
Yes,
Our
guaranteed.
contestant, Kristen from Charleston, South Carolina, didn't miss a single question in our first 2 rounds and has officially been crowned the Who What When Champion of the Week. She now has a shot at something even greater. It's our weekly prize, that sweet Who What When Fanny Pack. Kristen, are you excited? What are your plans for the fanny pack?
Well, I'm going to put as many things as I can fit in it.
Okay.
We'll see how big this fanny pack is. But
Yeah.
man, I love me a good fanny pack.
Stretch it to its limits.
Yeah, Kristen, I heard you say earlier, you kind of sprinkled this in, that you're a science teacher. Is that true?
That is true. That is a liberty, not fibberty.
I love that the science teacher is just really crushing this Revolutionary War
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know, I was a little worried coming on a history podcast. It was never exactly my strongest subject.
Well, perfect game begs to differ, Kristen.
Perfect game begs to differ, and let's give you that fanny pack so you can jam as many beakers and Bunsen burners as possible in that bad boy. But you're gonna have to get through our final game today first. This is a game I absolutely love. It's one we call History or His Story, Revolutionary War Edition.
Here's how the game's going to work, Kristen. Former history teacher Dan over there has 3 stories about the Revolutionary War that are almost too wild to believe, but 2 of them are actually true. They are 100% historically accurate. The other story, 100% made up by Dan, aka it is his story. And after each story, you'll have a chance to ask questions with me. We'll talk through it a bit. And then after you hear all 3 stories, you will have to tell us which one is Dan's lie, which one is his story.
Kristen, how's that sound?
That sounds great.
I love it. All right. So these are obviously Revolutionary War stories.
Yes.
And the first story is called That Girl is Poison.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
the name of it. You're welcome. I even got to sing a little bit
Heavy
this
music
week.
episode this week.
Really? That's right.
We love it.
Let me introduce you to Nancy Ann Morgan, born in 1735 in North Carolina, cousin of famous Revolutionary War General Daniel Morgan. She married a guy named Benjamin Hart, a descendant of Henry Clay and other famous political figures.
Okay.
The Harts moved to Georgia in 1770s and began their frontier lifestyle. Both Nancy and her husband were active hunters and marksmen. Nancy was known for being incredibly tough. She was 6 feet tall, red-haired, smallpox scars all over her body,
Whoa.
hot-headed temper, a penchant for vengeance. Cherokee neighbors called her War Woman.
That's a strong nickname.
Strong nickname. When the war began, Nancy's husband Benjamin joined the ranks of the colonial soldiers fighting for freedom. The British were in the South. They were very successful in the South during the majority of the war. More loyalists to the king were in the South, so there wasn't as much fandom for declaring independence as there was in the North. The British also recruited slaves from plantations to join their ranks. They occupied Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina for much of the war. The South's best operations against British occupation was guerrilla-style warfare in smaller, less industrialized regions of the country. Nancy began acting as a spy for the colonies. She would dress up as a man, hang around the British posts in the South, act as though she was a feeble-minded loyalist. Secretly, she kept tabs on the British and gleaned any info she could to give the colonists an advantage. A group of 6 British soldiers killed a turkey on Hart's farm, went to her house and demanded she cook it for them.
Wow.
They walked up to this woman and said, "We killed this turkey, cook the bird."
Wow.
Cook the bird, do as we say. These are the rules of war. Hart agreed to cook the turkey for them.
Wow.
As they sat at the table preparing to eat, Hart, along with the help of her children, confiscated all of the soldiers' weapons.
Oh.
Instead of bringing out the turkey, she brought out a rifle, holding all 6 at gunpoint. The men tried to rush her, and she fired away,
Yeah.
killing one soldier and wounding another.
Well, I got overly excited there early. I didn't know it.
The murder.
I
You
didn't know
got
about the,
really
I didn't know,
into murder.
I didn't
Yeah.
know about the death.
Her children, she had 8 of them, 6 boys and 2 girls, apprehended the remaining soldiers, and they were eventually hung by Hart and her neighbors.
Okay.
You still cheering?
Yeah. Get him.
This story was part of Revolutionary War lore for over a century, and in 1912, they dug up the skeletal remains on the Hart farm, including several with broken necks in accordance with the hanging. And Hart County, Georgia is still the only county named after a female in Georgia to this day. That is the end of story number 1. Brand, what do you think?
An amazing story, obviously. It's wild to me that you would knock on the door of, like, quote unquote, the enemy and be like, hey, cook for me. Like,
Pretty common rules of war.
It just seems crazy.
Yeah,
Like, it
pretty
seems like
common
you're
rules of war.
asking for trouble, though.
Pretty common rules of war.
I'd be
actually.
shocked that this wouldn't happen more.
Yeah. No, this is pretty common rules of war, and also taking advantage of the British believing that women were just weaker and couldn't defend themselves. Kristen, what are you thinking about that story?
So I live in Charleston now, but I spent most of my earlier years in Georgia. I know Hart County is a thing, and I've heard of her, and I know some of it's true. I don't know about the specific event, though, of killing the turkey and shooting and hanging. I know there's a lot of bits of truth. I just don't know about that specific.
You know, Hart is real. Hart is awesome. Don't know the specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a fair place to be.
Hard is real.
Hard is awesome.
Yeah.
That's how we talk with articles and grammar here.
That's that. Well, that's how we. Those are our. We say that every day
Hard is
before
real.
we
Hard is
start
awesome.
recording. Yeah, we all
you put your
Hard
leg
is
on.
real. Hard is awesome. Let's
That's
do
right.
this thing.
Let's do this thing. All right, let's move on to story number 2 called Purple Heart and Soul, and it starts right now. The American Revolution had its fair share of spies, deserters, and traitors. Many soldiers deserted or retreated for the colonists in the early going because of the lack of organization between militias, especially before the Declaration of Independence. The most famous traitor of the war was Benedict Arnold, who defected from Washington's army to become a British general in New York. Let me introduce you to Daniel Bissell. Born in Hartford, Connecticut, Bissell signed up for the war at age 22 in 1776 as a corporal in the Connecticut Regiment, becoming a sergeant that year. In 1781, Daniel Bissell defected from the colonial army in New York. He joined the British Army shortly thereafter under the command of none other than Benedict Arnold, America's biggest traitor.
Sure.
He served for 13 months under Arnold. Most of the time serving was spent with a fever he couldn't break. The British didn't believe he would survive the war, but after 13 months, Bissell found his way out of the British Army and back to George Washington. You see, George Washington had recruited Bissell specifically to be a spy for him against Benedict Arnold.
Whoa.
After Benedict Arnold betrayed.
Spy, it's a double
cross.
It's a double cross.
When Bissell returned to Washington, he was immediately imprisoned to meet with Washington. He shared memorized enemy positions, British strategy maps, and much more. Bissell remained in prison until Washington confirmed the information, and then Bissell was released and allowed to rejoin the colonial regiment. After the war was over, Washington decided to honor Bissell with a special award that he made up himself. And to tell you that story, I got to tell you this one. Earlier during the war, Washington was at a party with Daniel Bissell before he was sent undercover, and Bissell's wife. While Bissell danced with his wife, his shoe got caught on her dress, causing the dress to rip. Bissell retrieved the strand of dress, shaped it into a heart, and gave it to his wife on the dance floor as a token of his love, much to the amusement of the party guests. Bissell's wife, her dress was purple. Are you ready for this? In honoring Daniel Bissell at the end of the war, Washington had a purple cloth fashioned in the shape of a heart and awarded this to Bissell as the badge of military merit. While the badge of military merit went away, the Purple Heart remained as one of the highest military honors bestowed upon men and women of the armed services in combat, still to this day. That is the end of story number 2. Bran, what do you think?
I love this. This is This is a Hallmark movie. This is wonderful. So, such a fantastic story, and I want it to be true. Obviously, we know about the Purple Heart. That is real. I have no idea where it came from, and so I got a lot to sort through. Kristen, your thoughts on this? Do you feel good about it? Can you give me any information to make me feel better about it?
I feel better about that story than I did about the first story. Washington, what a softie. Just remembering women's dresses. It's a very thoughtful thing to do.
Yeah. What a softie.
What a softie.
What a softie. All right. We got one more to go.
Yes.
We ready?
Yes.
This is a story that I've called the old bah and switch. Now, I don't know if that works over radio, but the old bait and switch, you just change it to bah and you know that there's an animal.
It works. It works.
Great. Okay.
Get a word, it works.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Bran. I appreciate that. Thanks for your support.
I got a word.
Fantastic. The producer told us that it worked. Let me talk to you about the encampment at Valley Forge. We've already mentioned this before. After the British took control of Philadelphia earlier in 1777, Washington's Continental Army scored an important victory at Saratoga in New York, showing the world, primarily England's arch rival France, that they meant business. Washington's army then camped at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, just over 20 miles outside of Philadelphia, for over 6 months. The majority of this time was spent not fighting, but training. The end result of this encampment was an army re-emerging more organized with French support, and before then, they had to survive a harsh cold winter with little food, supplies, and flagging morale. In January of 1778, during the middle of this harsh winter, a farmer and French sympathizer gifted George Washington a goat that he called pomme de terre. I don't know how to pronounce it in France. That means potato.
Yep.
It means potato. That's what it means. I don't know why the goat's name was potato, but it was. The goat became kind of the unofficial mascot of the men during the Valley Forge encampments, calling him Pom for short. Thank goodness it wasn't Tater. That would be terrible. Pom was kind of a nuisance around camp. He would chew through satchel straps, tent fabric, get into food supplies. Of note, Palm took an extreme liking to the red fabric of the British uniforms the Continental Army had collected and intended to repurpose. Classic Palm, classic Tater out here doing his thing.
Tater's gonna Tate.
This gave Washington the idea for what amounts to be a war prank. They would take Palm to British camp, which was miles away outside Brandywine, late in the evening, and they would cut Palm loose. And then Continental soldiers would camp all night outside of Brandywine and then pick him up in the morning. And so what would happen in what basically is a Disney movie at this point is that per a British soldier journal entry, the British camp was plagued by a goat or an apparition of a goat that had chewed holes in their uniform, tents, and bags, causing hellish nuisances by daybreak. When the French officially joined the revolutionary cause in February, Palm's trips became fewer and fewer, but Washington's affinity for the goat remained, as he reportedly had a wooden tag for him made to put around his neck with "faithful beyond reason"
My gosh.
inscribed upon it. It would stand to reason that Palm's descendants still roam the Pennsylvania countryside to this day. That is the end of story 3. He's the goat.
He's
Bran,
the
what do you
literal
think?
goat. I'm just glad that Purple Heart doesn't come from this story somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
The other story was so nice and warm. Faithful beyond reason is such a bold thing to hang around a goat. Like, what a goat.
Yeah.
I love this story. It's wild. It's crazy.
It's kooky.
It's so crazy. It might be true.
That's
it
right.
might be true. Kristen, what are your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are, having been around goats, I would never say faithful beyond reason or think that it could sneak around a camp at night without being seen.
Maybe faithful beyond reason for a goat.
Yeah.
Maybe.
As far as goats are
So
concerned.
Yeah.
So you're saying this does not
It just doesn't add up to you.
add up with what
This
you know
one-
about goats.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the first story, but this one sounds far
right.
too made up.
Okay, far too made up. All right, so I'm going to pitch it to you. The time has come. The first story, that girl is poison. Nancy Morgan Hart killing some redcoats. The second story, Purple Heart and Soul, Daniel Bissell going undercover to double-cross Benedict Arnold, and then the Purple Heart being invented because of a nice thing with his wife. Or the old buy and switch,
Sure.
where Potato the goat went and chewed through some redcoats. War prank.
Or an apparition.
Or an apparition of a goat. That was what the British thought.
Could be a ghost.
Could be a ghost.
Could be a ghost goat.
No, that's what the British thought. It wasn't
I
a
know.
ghost goat. He was justice for Potato.
Sorry, I don't want to.
That's right. Heart is
push a
good.
narrative.
Heart is real.
Faithful beyond reason.
Kristen.
That's how we end it.
Kristen.
Hard.
That's right. Yes, we'll get it later. Don't
We'll do it
worry.
later.
We'll pick it up. Kristen, which of those stories for a who, what, when fanny pack for a perfect game?
That's right.
Which of those stories is my story?
I think your story is the Potato story, Potato the goat. As much as I would love to think of Washington having a pet goat, I don't think that one's true.
You don't think the goat's true, huh? Which one do you want? Do you think, Brandon? Also, do you want?
I have thoughts here. I think the potato story is true. I'm torn between the first two stories, right? Because the first one is like, yeah, let's go get
Yeah.
him. The second one is like, it has the most things that everyone would know, right? Benedict Arnold, the Purple Heart,
Yeah.
all of that is like, yeah, that's true. So you've given me two stories to kind of cheer for here.
Yeah.
Knowing goat is real. So I'm stuck here. I'm going to go with number one. I think story number one, as crazy as it is, I'm going to say that is your story. Purple Heart and goat are real.
All right. With that in mind, let's start with story number 2 about the Purple Heart. That story is 100% real.
Okay. All right.
What a story it is. That is unbelievable that it happened during the Revolutionary War. That is
Beautiful.
real.
Beautiful.
Nancy Morgan Hart killing 6 soldiers, hanging them with her 8 kids. That story is also real.
Okay.
It's also real. And Kristen,
Whoa.
perfect game horn has been sounded. Potato the goat is my story.
Oh,
Kristen
faithful
saw
beyond
it coming
reason.
a mile away, faithful beyond reason. Maybe a hair too much by me. Who can tell? Kristen, congratulations. Not only are you Who What Win Champion of the Week, you also are taking home a Who What Win fanny pack. What do you have to say?
I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah, you are.
And you're
get
bringing
it.
the fanny pack.
Absolutely. I'm going to hold all of the things.
I'm so happy for you, Kristen. Congratulations. You are faithful beyond reason. I'll say that.
Thanks for joining us this week on Who What When, Kristen.
Thank you so much.
And that brings us to the end of this Revolutionary War edition of Who What When. Thanks again to our contestants Kristen and Sarah for playing with us today. And a huge congratulations again to Kristen for becoming the Who What When Champion of the Week with a perfect game.
Our producer is A.T. Shire. Our executive producer is Sean Birch, who would only wear a powdered wig if it was powdered with sugar. This show's a production of South Carolina Public Radio and is made possible in part by listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina.
Join us for a future episode of Who What When. Just call or text us 803-470-6347 or send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
You can find more about the show on our website, southcarolinapublicradio.org/whowhatwhen.
And you can check out extended versions of our show in your favorite podcast app or through your smart speaker.
I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. Join us again next week for more history, games, and trivia right here on Who What When.